There are places on Earth where the night does not simply fall. It waits, watching. Rendlesham Forest is one of those places. Hidden in the quiet countryside of Suffolk, England, it is a landscape steeped in legends, ancient burial mounds, whispers of witchcraft, and tales of strange lights that appear when the world is asleep. But in the winter of 1980, something happened here that defied explanation. It wasn't just a fleeting light or a trick of the mind. It was real, witnessed by soldiers trained to see through fear. What they saw was unlike any aircraft, any technology known to man. This is not just a story about UFOs. It is a story of time bending, of minds touched by something beyond comprehension, and of a silence so alive it could almost breathe. Tonight, we return to Rendlesham to retrace the steps of those who stood at East Gate, staring into the dark sky, and saw something that would change them forever. RAF Woodbridge lay hidden under a curtain of fog, its buildings crouched like silent beasts against the winter sky. The air here felt thicker, as if the forest itself exhaled something ancient and heavy. At night, the winds carried whispers, faint, untraceable murmurs that seemed to come from the burial mounds scattered across Suffolk. Soldiers talked in low voices about strange lights darting through the trees, about shadows that moved without shape or reason. Laurie, barely 18, arrived with a soldier's resolve and the naive belief that discipline could conquer fear. But this place was different. The first thing she noticed was the eyes of the other airmen, haunted, distant, as if they were carrying secrets they could never speak. Some drowned their unease in alcohol. Others stared at nothing for hours, frozen in thought, as if listening to something only they could hear. Locals called Suffolk the most haunted county in England. They warned of secret gatherings under the full moon, of covens that had whispered to the dead for centuries. They spoke of the forest as a place where time itself could fold and twist. Laurie laughed at first, but only for a moment. During her first week, she realized something unsettling. Time felt wrong here. The clock on her wrist ticked steadily, yet the minutes dragged like hours. A single patrol seemed endless, every step echoing louder than the last. The forest beyond the wire felt alive, as if it were watching her, waiting. There were nights when the sky glowed faintly, though no moon was visible, and the dark treetops seemed to hum with an energy that defied logic. It was not the legends that frightened her. It was the sense that this place had rules of its own, a silent pulse beneath reality, bending what was real and unreal and swallowing time like quicksand. The night was cruelly cold, the kind of cold that bites through gloves and creeps into the bones. Laurie stood alone at East Gate, her breath coiling into pale ghosts before her face. Beyond the fence, Rendlesham Forest stretched like a wall of blackness, its trees standing so still they looked carved from stone. Not even the wind dared to move. She checked her watch. 3:00 a.m. It was always this hour. Something about it felt unnatural, as if the world held its breath. A faint crackle hissed from her radio, a broken whisper of static, though no one was speaking. She tightened her grip on her flashlight, its weak beam trembling in the mist. A sudden feeling swept over her, a sharp awareness that she was not alone. The hairs on the back of her neck rose. She scanned the forest edge, but the shadows were deep, layered, impossible to read. It was not just fear. It was as if something out there was observing her with calm, unblinking eyes. The silence pressed against her eardrums, thick and suffocating. Even the usual hum of distant engines from the base had vanished. Laurie swallowed hard, feeling her heartbeat pounding against her ribcage. The forest seemed to lean closer, the trees crowding like silent witnesses. She flicked the radio, hoping for a voice, but only static answered. Somewhere far away, an owl screeched, a sharp, lonely cry that made her heart lurch. She took a slow step forward, boots crunching on frosted gravel. Every sound felt amplified in this oppressive stillness. At that moment, she knew something was coming. She didn't know what, but the air felt charged, alive, like the moment before lightning strikes. The horizon was nothing but black water and sky, the line between them blurred by mist and the pale breath of winter. Laurie's eyes drifted toward the North Sea, drawn by a sensation she couldn't explain, like a whisper brushing against her mind. Then she saw it. At first it looked like a star trembling faintly in the dark, but stars don't move like this. The light glided sideways, smooth and deliberate as if testing the air. Laurie blinked, thinking her tired eyes were playing tricks. She raised her flashlight, the beam trembling slightly, but the glow out there didn't fade. It pulsed like a living heartbeat. The orb hovered, no sound, no flicker. Suddenly it shifted, sharp, fast. It darted left, then right, then stopped dead as if frozen midair. Laurie's breath caught in her throat. It was close enough now that she could see its edges weren't solid but shimmering. A haze of pale blue and white wrapped around it like fire that didn't burn. "Do you see that?" Laurie whispered, though no one could hear her over the radio's dull static. Then, without warning, the orb pulsed 3 times and split apart, splitting cleanly into 3 glowing spheres. They floated in perfect formation, silent and synchronized, moving like they were connected by some invisible thread. Laurie's partner, Keith, emerged from the gate shack, rubbing his eyes. He froze when he saw them. What the hell is that?" he muttered. His voice trembled. The orbs descended, gliding in a low arc over the base's runway. The air hummed, soft, electric, as if the very atmosphere was vibrating. Laurie felt it in her teeth, a faint, buzzing sensation. They were close enough now that she could see the light rippling like liquid, bending the fog around them. There were no wings, no engines, no sound, just a soft pulse like a silent drumbeat. Laurie turned to Keith, her hand gripping the cold metal of the radio. "You have to report this," she said, her voice barely steady. But Keith shook his head, his face pale. "No, you don't understand. We can't report this. They'll think we're crazy." Before she could argue, the 3 spheres began to ascend, moving in perfect unison. They climbed higher, faster, then shot upwards into the night sky, gone in the blink of an eye. The silence they left behind was heavier than before, as though the world had stopped breathing. Laurie stood frozen, her breath fogging in the air, staring at the empty sky. For a moment, she wasn't sure if what she saw was real, or if the forest had finally begun whispering to her mind. The runway was empty, but Laurie's chest felt heavy, as if the silence itself was pressing down on her lungs. Keith stood beside her, gripping the radio so tightly his knuckles turned white. Neither of them spoke. They just stared at the sky, waiting for the impossible lights to return. Then Laurie glanced at her watch and froze. 3:12 a.m. But only a second ago it had been 3:00 sharp. A strange chill slid down her spine. Her memory of the last few minutes, no, maybe longer, felt slippery, like a dream she couldn't hold on to. "What time did they leave?" she asked softly. Keith looked at her, confused. "What do you mean? We just saw them, didn't we?" But as the seconds ticked and unease grew, something wasn't right. The forest around them had changed. The shadows looked sharper. The air was heavier. And on the horizon, the first traces of dawn glimmered faintly, as if they had been standing there far longer than they thought. Laurie tried to recall the moment the lights shot upward, but the memory twisted. She remembered a flash, a vibration through her bones, and then nothing. A gap, a blank stretch of time that felt stolen. Her body felt different too, tired, drained, like she had run for miles. Even her hands trembled when she reached for the gate shack's door. Keith shook his head, muttering, I don't know what happened. I can't remember." His voice was shaky, almost breaking. Later, when they returned to the barracks, Laurie noticed something else. The clock on the wall didn't match her watch. It was as if they had lost an entire hour. That night was only the beginning. Over the next few days, the air on the base grew tense. Men who had been calm before now paced their rooms at night. Some said they saw things in the woods, shapes moving where no one stood. Others woke screaming, claiming they had heard voices whispering in languages they didn't know. Laurie, too, began having strange dreams, images of glowing symbols she didn't understand, and a feeling of floating weightlessly in the dark. Whenever she closed her eyes, she could still feel the hum of those lights vibrating in her bones. She knew something had happened to them that night, something the base would never talk about. And somehow, deep in her gut, she felt this was connected to something much larger than just a sighting. The days following the sighting felt unreal, as though the base itself had shifted into another world. Conversations became hushed, eyes darted nervously when certain topics arose, and officers avoided any mention of the lights. It was as if everyone knew something, but no one dared to speak. Laurie overheard fragments of rumors while making her rounds. The names Cobra Mist and directed energy tests came up more than once, whispered like forbidden words. Soldiers claimed that parts of the base had once stored nuclear weapons before they were quietly moved to Bentwaters. Others said there were underground rooms filled with strange equipment, machines that hummed even when turned off. The more Laurie listened, the more the pieces didn't fit. Why was this place hidden in the forests of Suffolk so heavily guarded? Why did the air feel charged, almost metallic, as if an invisible current pulsed through it? One evening, while checking a fence line near the far end of the base, she found herself staring at an old, abandoned facility. Its doors were bolted shut, and the windows were sealed with heavy steel plates. The building radiated a strange coldness like it hadn't been touched for decades. Yet faint vibrations hummed beneath the ground near it. A veteran sergeant once muttered, "Woodbridge isn't just a base, it's a listening post. They're watching the skies, but not for Soviet jets. They're looking for something else." That same night, Laurie felt the hairs on her neck rise again. She looked toward the forest and for the briefest second saw a glimmer, a thin thread of light snaking between the trees and vanishing like a dream. It wasn't a torch nor a reflection. It was alive. There was a quiet tension between the soldiers and their superiors. Laurie noticed that those who asked too many questions were suddenly reassigned to less sensitive posts. Some were simply told to keep their heads down. And as the Cold War loomed over Europe, the line between secret experiments and something otherworldly became harder to see. Was it human technology born from the shadows of war? Or were they standing guard over something far stranger, something that didn't belong to this earth? Laurie could not shake the feeling that what she had seen was more than just a passing light. It was as though the event had left an imprint on her mind, an echo that pulled her towards strange ideas and patterns she had never considered before. One night, sitting alone in the barracks with a faded map of Suffolk, she traced the area surrounding RAF Woodbridge with her finger. The forest, the coast, the burial mounds, they all seemed to fall along invisible lines, like threads stretching out toward other places she had only read about. There were stories of ley lines, mystical energy paths that linked ancient sites across the world. The thought that Woodbridge might sit on one of these hidden intersections made her stomach tighten. She remembered the hum she felt in her bones when the 3 glowing orbs passed overhead. It was the same feeling described by locals when they spoke of strange lights over the sea, lights that had been seen long before the military ever built its bases here. In the following weeks, Laurie's dreams grew sharper, more vivid. She saw flashes of places she had never visited, a silent desert where metallic structures jutted from the sand, a lush jungle with ruins glowing faintly under starlight, and a remote zone in Mexico known as the Zone of Silence, where compasses spun uselessly and strange frequencies filled the air. It was as if the lights had left a map inside her mind, connecting Suffolk to distant lands. Bermuda Triangle, Giza, Nazca, all linked by lines no one could see. She didn't know if it was real or just her imagination, but every time she thought about the glowing orbs, she felt they were travelers, moving through these energy paths like ships sailing hidden currents. The idea terrified her. One evening, while walking near the tree line, she found herself staring at the dark forest as if it might open into something else. Another world or another time. The silence felt too deep, as though even the earth itself was holding its breath. In that moment, she understood something unsettling. The lights hadn't just come to Woodbridge by accident. They were drawn here. The lights over Rendlesham Forest may have vanished into the night, but the questions they left behind still burn brighter than ever. Were they visitors from another world, advanced technology from a secret program, or something far stranger that we cannot yet name? What do you believe happened in that cold December sky? Do you think we are truly alone, or are the answers hiding in plain sight, waiting for us to look closer? If this story sparked your curiosity, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like this video, share your thoughts, and subscribe to X-Site for more mysterious stories and true UFO encounters from around the world. The truth is out there, and together we're getting closer.